Two Lexington police officers have been involved in an on-duty shooting. At around 10:43 p.m. on September 8th, 2022, officers were dispatched for a trespassing and a delayed assault report at the Extended Stay America in the 3500 block of Takes Creek Road. Officers attempted to make contact with the suspect, but the suspect refused to answer the door. Officers were able to gain access to the room, and shortly after entry, the suspect fired a gun at the officers. The officers returned gunfire. The officers backed out of the room after returning gunfire. The suspect stayed and refused to exit the room. One of the officers was shot and transported to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The Lexington Police Department's Emergency Response Unit and Crisis Negotiation Unit were requested and attempted to make contact and negotiate with the suspect for negotiate with the subject for several hours. Officers were able to enter the room at around 4:30 a.m. and located the suspect suffering from a gunshot wound. Emergency personnel rendered first aid, and the suspect was transported to a local hospital with reported life-threatening injuries, where they were later pronounced deceased. In accordance with Lexington Police Department policies, the officers had their issued body-worn cameras activated. The incident is being investigated by the Kentucky State Police Critical Incident Response Team, and the department's Public Integrity Unit will conduct an internal review of the incident. As per policy, the officers will be placed on administrative assignment pending the outcome of the investigation. Any questions you might have?
The officer's name who was wounded?
Since the Kentucky State Police is handling the investigation, they'll determine when that information can be released.
Just to make sure I got it correct, the shots were fired inside the room, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the name of the person of interest?
I don't have it right here right now, and I don't know if the coroner has released that.
Male or female?
As a male, an African-American male.
So did you say two officers were placed on administrative leave?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now the department has 4 officers on administrative leave, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How many officer involved shootings is it for the department this year? You have that?
I don't have that number.
What was the incident? Why were officers called to?
They were dispatched for a trespassing and a delayed assault report.
Was the van staying active? Did he stay hotel in off Case Creek?
I just have 3500 block of Takes Creek Road.
Do you know that if it was the officer's gunfire that wounded and ultimately killed, or is it possible he shot himself?
I do not know any of that right now.
How long was the standoff?
We got the call at about 10:43, and our emergency response unit entered about 4:30 a.m.
Were there any other occupants in the room?
I'm not discussing that right now.
Do we know, was he trespassing the hotel or was he staying there?
I don't have any further information on that right now.
Was it domestic violence related?
I'm not going to answer the questions related to the case. It's Kentucky State Police is investigating that.
From a personal standpoint, because departments across the country oftentimes take a beating over shootings like this, how hard is it for you to, kind of deal with the aftermath of something like this the day after, the weeks after?
It's very difficult. There are a lot of emotions involved. The officers that are involved, their families, the emotions are involved. The suspect and relatives, you have emotions there, and then you have emotions from the public, and they get emotionally involved. And then you know, you have the motions from the chief too, you know. These things are difficult for everybody, but we have to stand firm by the process and investigate it and follow the policies and procedures so that everything comes out above board and everything's done professional and everything's done according to the law.
Is it a male or female officer? Who's the,
A male officer.
and have you had a chance to speak with him, and how's he doing?
Yes, spoke with him at the hospital, and the officer has been released from the hospital.
The two administrative officers that are on administrative leave, did their bullets hit the suspect?
That, I don't know. That has to be ferreted out in the investigation.
With 4 officers now on administrative leave, is the department doing anything? Are you reviewing any policies? Are you making any changes to policies? Do you have your officers reviewing any type of protocol procedures?
No, they have protocol and policies in place, and the administrative leave is standard, and I think if you look at departments across the country, that's standard while the preliminary investigation is going on. And then once that's completed, then a determination is made of whether or not the officers need to stay on administrative leave or they can come back to work.
Chief, you mentioned delayed assault, I think was the term you used. What does that mean?
That's in here. I'm not sure how the call went out to them or how they perceived it. So I assume that by delayed assault, as there was an assault report that occurred at some previous time, but I don't have any idea how earlier that assault occurred.
Because this was in a hotel, do you have reason to believe they were from out of town?
I'm not addressing that. All I know is that it was at the 3500 block, Takes Creek.
Kentucky State Police, are you representing KSP?
I am.
Okay, do you have any intention on releasing this body cam footage?
It's an ongoing investigation. No evidence will be released until after the investigation is complete.
The chief, you have mentioned, as well as the mayor, you have said, more than once that Lexington is a safe city, but now we are here again for another shooting. Some people in the community feel that that is not the case. What is your response to them and the ongoing shooting?
My response to that is these are rare in Lexington. Sometimes you have bad things happen. They could happen anywhere. I looked at the news quite frequently, and there's some counties where you hear about shooting incidents and they've never had one. We don't know what people are going to do from one moment to the next. Bad things happen. What we need to do is be prepared for it, be able to respond to it, and be able to deal with it and handle it as best we can.
Do you think there are too many guns on the streets?
I think that's very subjective, So too many is, I don't know.
Well, that has been our claim, that there are a number of guns on the streets, and that is why we're seeing more shootings. Would you agree with that or not?
I don't know if that's the case or not. I haven't seen any research to either validate that or invalidate that, so I'm not going to comment on that either.
Okay, one final question. I have a hard stop in a minute.
Was the hotel evacuated?
I'm not answering that question either right now.
What
Mayor,
the
can we
police
ask-
say on the loudspeaker? I'm sorry.
I think I've got other places to be. I know I do. So, and I think we have
One or two questions. Would you be available for one or two?
For about a minute.
That's fine. Could you step up?
Oh, yes. Good morning.
When these happen, it is your city, so it's on some level something you probably take personally, I would imagine.
It is disturbing. I went with the chief to see the officer very early this morning. because I care about every one of our officers. And I care about all the people who live here. So we work every day with our partners, our police officers, One Lexington, a number of partners to continue to keep Lexington safe.
You say you work with a number of partners to keep Lexington safe. I know you mentioned One Lexington, but I know that's a city program under the mayor's office. Is there
Yes.
any, organizations outside of the city that you guys will work with to help reduce some of the issues that you see?
We partner with New Vista, who offer mental health resources. We partner with, in a very large way, with Community Action Council and put millions of dollars of resources toward affordable housing. We know that all these things are important. We put a lot of resources and work into our homeless programs, community paramedicines working every day. All of these folks work on public safety and keeping our residents safe.
When it's learned by the public that the suspect or person of interest was a African-American male, the reaction may not be what you want it to be. Are you concerned about that around the city now?
I don't want to speculate on that because I'm kind of like the chief. I don't know a lot of the detail yet about this.
What can you say just to the community? You know, we've kind of mentioned before that some people have some concerns about safety with the recent gun violence. Yesterday we had the UK shooting. What can you just say to reassure the community that we are doing everything you can to keep everybody safe and put those, work with those partners?
Well, we work at this every day. Pretty much the police will tell you nonstop. And we won't give up on this. Now, the community has to be part of the solution. When people know things about crime or about who has illegal guns or whatever it is, they need to call Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers is anonymous, and our police need clues and information that they can follow up on. And I know that our community worries about public safety. We all do. It's what's going on right now is a nationwide phenomenon. I think our society's having a shift in how people settle their differences. And they're using guns more now to settle differences that when I grew up, you learned how to talk to each other. And that sort of thing. I think the boys kind of duked it out. But it's a complex problem. And we're not going to solve it right here today, but we have hundreds of people in our community working on it every day.